Today we are going to remove the front wheel of a Ducati 800 SS. The first thing we'll look at is front wheel wear. So on the front tire, I can see that this tire was run for many miles with too low air pressure. Easy way is there'll be like two flat spots on either side of the center of the tread. So now let's remove the front brake calipers, and I just need to loosen these two hex head bolts and back them out. And once I get these hex head bolts out, then I'm going to give this caliper just a slight twist, and I just want to separate those pads just enough so I can slide it off of the rotor. This bike hasn't moved in quite a while, and I don't want any debris to get past the pistons and into the caliper, so I want to be careful with this until I clean the calipers up, and that'll be in another video. When I did pull these off, I was happy to see that the pads are good, and whoever had the bike before me actually put EBC HH pads on it. If you haven't ridden on EBC HH pads, do yourself a favor and buy a couple sets for the front of your bike. It's just an amazing feel what EBC does with those HH pads. This bike has really super low miles for it being a 2007, so I'm happy to see that somebody actually took the time and put a decent set of brake pads on and threw away those OEM Brembos that were in the calipers that shipped from Ducati. Those pads weren't very good at all. I'm doing the same thing here, just kind of giving the caliper a little twist on the rotor to separate the pads so I can slide it off a little bit easier. When I put it back together, I have cleaned off the inside of the caliper and hosed down the pistons with WD-40 and made sure there's no debris in there. So if those pistons do slide in, it won't be destroying my seals inside the caliper. Next, I take a 28mm socket and I loosen the axle nut, and I'm just loosening it enough. I'm leaving about 4 threads on the nut because I'm going to use my rubber hammer to hammer that axle through so I can get a grip with the vise grips on the other side. So once I have my pinch bolts loosened up, it'll be time to send that axle through the forks. So I'm just going to give it a couple taps and you see it pop out. Now I remove that axle nut and I take a rubber mallet, and you could have used a rubber mallet to tap on that nut with as well, and I just knock that axle out far enough that I can get a pair of vise grips. And what I do is I take a cloth and I put it on that axle and then tighten down my vise grips. This way the cloth is going to protect my axle from the jaws of the vise grips scarring up the axle. You don't want to do that. You want to protect that axle the best you can. This axle probably hasn't been out of the bike in 4 or 5 years, so it's really in there tight. I'm surprised I can even move it this much. There's not going to be any lube on the axle once I get it out, but I am fighting with it, believe it or not. I'm really fighting this axle to get it out. It does not want to budge. But once this axle comes out, then the removal process is pretty much over. So here it comes. Axle's out, spacer falls off the other side, we've got the wheel out. Easy enough to remove the front wheel. So good luck. My next video will be cleaning up the wheel. Thanks for watching.